People are really good at stuff. They're so good you can't even imagine it.
Hart didn't quite get that right. Oh, look at that! That is absolute. Oh, not again. No! Wide open and a flick.
I like to think of it this way. There's a hierarchy of skill development levels, and it takes the form of a climbable ladder where there are a lot more people in the lower levels, some people in the middle, and very few at the top. But everyone started at the bottom at some point, and they had to climb through all the levels to get towards the top. A general problem that people have is plateauing, often in the intermediate levels. And when you say plateauing, it might seem like you're just standing still, but I think it's much more useful to look at it as if you end up climbing up and down the ladder on almost the same spot within the same skill level over and over again. And that begs the question, why do some people advance quickly through the levels? In my model, they have an accurate map of how advanced or beginner they are, and they're engaging with the activity with the appropriate tools. Taking it from the beginning, as a beginner and intermediate, you generally just need to be in the activity a lot and get some experiences. But having a broad baseline of just activity in the skill gives you just a starting ability to navigate. At the advanced level, you've made the activity a hobby or maybe a side job. One of the best ways to get better at the skill is to start introducing other people to it or to start teaching it in some limited capacity. If you earn a little bit of money by doing the skill, by either teaching or doing it, it's gonna help you engage with the skill a lot more often and in a way that emphasizes your development in the skill. Teaching others truly highlights where you are lacking and the methodologies that are useful for developing specific parts of that skill. By teaching, you also get used to analyze and to conform or to break with some of the more traditional parts of how this skill is developed. This gives you a huge advantage in your own self-development. Getting into an expert level, you need to start engaging with psychology, tactics, and periodization. By periodization, it means that you need to spend a large amount of time in some sub-skill within the skill or on some details that you have analyzed on the previous level is your weaknesses within the skill. There also arises a need to change your own psychology so that you'll be able to engage with the subject matter in the most productive way. By tactics, I mean that you need to learn lots of A happens, B is the appropriate response to form a basis for your tactical understanding. Getting into elite and world-class levels, it becomes essential that you innovate, because you're not gonna stay elite or world-class because other people are trying to innovate you out of this selected class of individuals. Further on from psychology, where you need to adapt your personality to the skill, you now need to engage with philosophy. Generally at this level, people engage in serious self-development with the appropriate tools to change their personality, to change their worldviews, to adapt to staying at an elite or world-class level, being able to innovate, thinking strategically about your performance and your development within the skill. Strategy is a development of tactics. Once you have a sufficient amount of tactical knowledge within the skill, you can start to employ strategy. Strategy is taking a far more long-term aim and literally setting goals, building backward a plan and a process to achieve the appointed goal. Some of the tools that are very useful for skill development at elite and expert levels are meditation, journaling, and behavioral therapy. These might be seen as silly activities for people at a lower skill level. That's also because generally they're not that useful for the lower levels. You need to get to a sufficient amount of experience so that these tools make sense to use. In my job as a performance coach, I also generally divide sports and jobs into different categories of development. You can think of the beginning development of a sport as just an activity or a hobby. That's at the beginner and intermediate level, and then on from there you get to the activity being your sport or being even your life sport, which is more at an advanced or expert level. And then pro sports, where you get paid for doing your sport, happens at the expert, elite, and world-class levels. When you think of jobs and careers, side jobs start happening around the intermediate advanced levels, and then you get a job at around the advanced and expert level. Careers happen at the expert level, and then entrepreneurship and research happens at the elite and world-class levels. Taking an example from my own life, my life sport is rock climbing. I started rock climbing about 5 years ago, and I started seriously engaging with the sport about 4 years ago. When I started, I was about an high intermediate level, 6A, 5C, which you can see as the sport grade on the left side of the table here. In 4 years I have advanced from 6A to around 7C+, which is an expert level. Of course, I've had the ladder syndrome at times, plateaus in my climbing development. However, engaging in the appropriate tools and understanding where I'm at the skill development stages steadily gain climbing competence. I'd also like to illustrate that there's a huge difference between an expert and an elite or world-class level. Here we have Adam Ondra climbing on the world's hardest route, Silence, which is a 9C grade, and on the right side is me climbing on my 7C Plus project, which I sent this spring. One of the things we notice straight away is that Adam moves a lot more smoothly and a lot faster than me. In addition, he's climbing in about a 70-degree overhang, while I'm climbing on about a 30-degree overhang, meaning the climbing demands a lot more physical strength and endurance from him than it does from me. You can also see that the width of techniques that Adam is using is far more advanced than what I'm using. In fact, everything from his psychology, his technical skills, his physical capacity, to his strategies and tactics are just better. Now it's unlikely that I will ever get to a world-class level of climbing. However, I can get to an elite level. Starting climbing in your late 20s as I did will limit your development somewhat, but you still have a high ceiling that you can achieve. Setting your goals too low is in fact the best way to limit your development. In contrast, Adam Ondra started climbing before he was a teenager, and he has climbed for more than 20 years, having a gradual skill development for all that time, probably avoiding major plateaus through understanding the skill development process. He's also known for innovating at the upper levels of rock climbing, which is a major telltale sign that you're at a minimum elite, if not world class. Okay, so if you have tried to engage in some serious skill development before, have probably felt something like this. In the very start, when you're a beginner, you don't care that much because it's a new thing, but once you get a little bit into it, late beginner, early intermediate stage, you are experiencing this huge peak of motivation and positive emotion around the subject. This is gonna be my life sport or my career, but then quite soon the motivation goes down, feeling a lack of engagement and enthusiasm with the subject, because quickly discovered it's actually kind of hard to reach your goals, and you get this roller coaster of emotion in the beginning. The point of this graph is for you to expect those emotions beforehand and to use strategies that will actually help you move forward. Now, if you Google this will come up as the Dunning-Kruger effect, but it's not. This is the real Dunning-Kruger effect, and these are the scientists behind it. It tells a little bit of a different story. This graph is much more about your emotion in relation to how fast are you gaining a skill, and I've written angle too small to notice. So what we need to point out is that motivation is a feeling. Parts of your brain that notice that angle of improvement and translate it into motivation is the mammal part. It's a highly emotional part of the brain. It's an animal part of the brain. It has quite low resolution in noticing whether things are improving or declining. When you reach this bottoming out of motivation, you have higher negative emotion around the subject. I call this intermediate hell. Robert Greene, great author, calls it tactical hell, and it's this contrast between the high positive emotion and high negative emotion in the beginner and intermediate stages that leads people to quitting. But if you can expect this emotional roller coaster and understand what each level of skill acquisition is going to make you feel like, then you have a much higher chance to persevere. Most unskilled beginners have exactly the wrong attitude. They have a wrong humility arrogance equation. They are very humble about their goals. They think that they might get to advanced levels, maybe, and they have arrogance about the process. So they're humble and arrogant in exactly the wrong ways. What you need to do in order to get out of intermediate hell and up towards advanced expert is to be incredibly humble about the process and insanely arrogant about your goals. Because if you're humble about the process, you're going to use very different strategies than what most people use. You're going to be humble and arrogant in the exact correct way. What we do in order to get out of intermediate hell is we hack this system by representing data as significant for this part of the brain. We do this by doing detailed measurements, and I do this in two parts. I take one objective measurement, let's say how much stronger you're getting in a specific lift, and then one subjective measurement of the same subject. How is the joint that the lift is based around feeling, or how is the energy level feeling during that strength training session? Then I put it into an Excel spreadsheet. I do averages so that I can notice large trends. As I said, this system has low resolution. It can't really notice the small changes that are necessary for making strength gains, weight loss, or seeing like a small change in your ability to write. Here's an example from my life. When I do rock climbing, it's very significant that this is a weight sport, but it's also a sport. So I need both energy and I need to be low weight. So I measure my weight and I take the average of that, and then I measure my energy levels in training sessions and during the day by a subjective measurement, just 1 to 10, and I also put that into a table and I get an average. These measurements allow you to win no matter what, because if it's going badly, if the trend is negative, you just notice what's not working. You notice that it was that you were eating too much that led to weight gain, or it was that you're eating too little that led to low energy levels, and the kind of foods either lead to weight gain or low energy levels or both, and then you can make the appropriate changes and you see the trend over time. But if you win, if everything goes in a positive direction, you're getting higher energy levels and lower weight, you're giving it the right food, the right amount of sleep, the right amount of training, so it just allows you to win no matter what. The whole point of this is working with your body, working with your body's natural systems, treating your body and your brain as biological systems that you can use to get what you want. But that entails that you need to understand this system and manipulate them in the correct ways. Feelings are not something that you have to discard. They are something that you need to understand, and you need to understand why these systems have been functional for us before and how you can make them functional right now in order to have faster skill development and consistent skill development. I really hope you gained something from this video. If you'd like to support the channel, go support us on Subscribestar. I've published 4 free tools on the Subscribestar page, and if you'd like coaching, you can contact SkillGap at skillgapcoaching@outlook.com. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you very much.